Sir, please start.
Namaskar. I am Professor Ramesh Gowal, Dean Director, Library Information, Indira Gandhi National Center for along with Professor Dr. Preeti Pathak Das, Joint Principal Investigator, National Digital Library of India, and Professor in IT. I welcome you to this special lecture on now and next post-COVID-19 world for digital libraries. Let me express my sincere thanks for inviting me for this inviting us for this particular lecture. So let me begin with this lecture. And the first thing, when we are talking about now, where we are now and what we are doing in terms of the world of digital libraries, we are going through a very huge pandemic because of this COVID-19 coronavirus, and the entire world is under lockdown, and education institutions are closed, and facilities are suffering because of impact of COVID-19. When all education institutions are closed, teaching, research, or learning activities are online, then definitely there is impact of the libraries and libraries are closed. And during this lockdown or social distancing, libraries are providing facilities or services anytime, anywhere to the libraries, to the users using various technologies, and also there are libraries remotely. There is a social impact of this also, but my main focus of this particular presentation is about current state of how libraries are meeting the needs of the users. That is something I'm going to present in this slide. How all these technologies which are playing a very important role, how India is prepared for that. It may be school libraries, college libraries, university libraries, research libraries, publishing industry, and library profession as a whole, how we are prepared for this scenario and how to deal with this scenario. Let me just focus where we are placed. When we talk about school libraries, in this country, except some metro private schools or Kendriya Vidyalaya and some Navodaya Vidyalaya and some other schools in some small cities, most of the schools hardly have been libraries. Librarians are not there, infrastructure is not there. Similar situation is in college libraries. University libraries are better placed. Research libraries, some are in very good conditions, some are in having some better infrastructure, some are lacking on infrastructure. When we talk about public libraries are worst, hardly we have a proper public library system who can take care of the needs of the people who are under lockdown, but they are hardly having resources, digital resources, and also technologies to support that. We have been having subject national libraries. We have National Library of India. But if you see the basic digital preservation program and the the way these libraries need to function in last over a decade or so, there are mindset that now libraries are changing because of internet. We need less and less library staff. So staffs have been cut down. Most of the positions have been reduced and redesignated. So all our libraries are in a state of even physically or infrastructurally, they are not very well off, except few good libraries. Most of the libraries are in the dire need of proper infrastructure, proper staffing, and proper leadership. So I doubt we are prepared for a situation like COVID-19. When we talk about Indian publishing industry, I'm not talking about, I'm talking about Indian publishers who are producing literature in vernacular languages and Indian languages. And that literature is all in print. Hardly there is any Indian publishing industry has come out with ebook platform. So even if I want to buy a book, it's hardly there. And when we talk about library profession, our library science courses are still not very that way updated. Still, profession is divided because we are divided into in academic library in university, science and technology, research library in science and technology, different ministries, different departments. As a particular scenario is like that, that most of our the challenges, the issues which we are facing in current situation like this, we are hardly able to have that kind of preparedness which the Western world is having. Some libraries are doing excellent work. Some professionals are doing excellent work. But when we talk about country as a whole, we are definitely not prepared to deal a situation like that. When we talk about various kind of initiative in this country to take care of digital preservation program or digital preservation initiative, digital archiving initiatives, we have been seeing number of initiatives. The first initiative, the national initiative, or we call it international initiative, which was started in form of Digital Library of India. Million books were digitized, but really the fate of the result or the result of the project was not expected the way we are expecting it. And the real reason was the planning. Similar situation happened to when we started this National Virtual Library of India few years before. We are expecting that entire cultural heritage material and resources should be available over the net to be accessible to people, but even catalog is not available. Similarly, Ministry of IT has given a good project to CDAC Pune to set up a national digital preservation program of the country, but hardly have any national digital preservation program initiative like different kind of reuse, Copal, and a number of other international projects. We are also not prepared in terms of the legal issues. We had this Books and Delivery Act 1954, which was enacted in long back, and no revision, no new law has been come out with a lot of changes in this entire content development scenario. Now we have so many publishers. Our publishing industry is quite huge. I believe it is even larger than the film industry. So I think the kind of legal deposit act we need, it should be a legal deposit act now. We never able to commit. Yes, we have some of the encouraging initiative, but the failure of all our initiative is because of lack of proper library policy. Libraries are not a single authority to deal with library issues. And most of these projects have been taken up by individuals, not a team. I always believe for this kind of project, you need a very good team, consists of librarians, a person from the field of technology, the person from the preservation program. Also, we need public-private partnership which is lacking in these all initiatives. That's why, and these initiatives become individual driven programs. Once the individual left the program, what happens? The project is gone. When Professor Balakrishnan left the Digital Library of India project, the fate of the project has gone. We hardly have anything in terms of the objective aims and objective what we have planned. Similarly, when we are having a project like National Virtual Library of India, IIT Bombay will be the excellent institution. I don't have any doubt on the capacity and the competence of the people over there. But when you are working on a virtual library of India, you need to involve librarians. You need to involve people from different areas, which was never done. And that's a result. Similarly, issue in other projects. We hardly have taken up this issue of revision of all these Books and Delivery Act. eSource Sindhu definitely is a good initiative, providing subscription-based product, but still a lot of things has to be done. A consortia, when we talk about back files or archival material, it is still lacking. One good thing happens to this profession in our last few years is the emergence of National Digital Library of India. And I can tell you that this project is successful and one of the most successful project of the Digital Library Initiative in this country. And major reason is that people like Professor Das, they are so forthcoming, they are so collaborative, they have been consulting people from different streams, from library, from technology, from the publishing industry, from the collaborators, from multinational, from UNESCO. So this is the way a project should be organized. So that's the scenario we are currently here. I will tell you one thing, like in this current scenario, teachers need information for preparing lectures, delivering presentation, and all kind of scholarly needs. And similarly, the situation for our students. They will need information. We have started online classes for schools, for university, for colleges. But we are unable to understand that when we are having online classes, both teachers and both students, they need reading material, supporting material. And that supporting material, because of lockdown, you cannot provide in physical form. You have to provide in digital copies. And I think question is that, do we have that kind of digital contents available in this country? Are we ready to understand the shifting user behavior? Are we really understanding the different kind of priorities of the users? Still people believe library is the best place to get peer-reviewed information or the best authenticated material. And they want Google-like search, not Google search. They want speed and convenience in access. They want high-quality material. They want different kind of delivery process. They want help in, because there's so much available on internet. They are fed up with this information available on the internet. There are now a lot of issues on consideration, maybe related to content development, on copyright issues, on digital rights management, on different kind of technology issues. People want now different ways of dealing the information, virtual reference services, use of remote access technologies, discovery services, and research data management, engage the community. So the needs are expanding in a way. How we are prepared to fulfill those needs of the users. These all kind of digital library contents, are we ready to provide except subscribe content? How many institutional repository we have developed? How many digital repository? How many digitization we have undertaken? In cultural and heritage sector, we may have done digitization of a lot of material, but how much is available online? How much is accessible over the internet? Issue is that electronic delivery is only possible when information is available on the internet. In terms of open access, how we are prepared? Do we have any national policy? We have national open access policy like Plan S in Europe. Are we having even institute level policy? How we are dealing the various issues of publishing, predatory publishing, or different kind of other issues concerning open access? How much awareness we have created? How much we are encouraging our users in creating open access journals? We all depend on Google. I would like to tell you, Google or any standard search engines does not index more than 15 to 20% web contents. How to access 80 to 85% web contents? Moreover, Google does not certify that this information available is authenticated or not. It is peer reviewed or not. While searching on Google, what you are looking for may not be the first in relevancy ranking. This is such an information overload. So believe me, there are mindset. People talk about now everything is available on internet. I want to tell them internet is not a library. Internet is not even a digital library. Internet is a huge web. And there's a surface web, there is a deep web, and there is a dark web. And it contains so much material, and everything may not be useful to you. Everything may not be of relevant to you. And these deep resources, there is a lot of hidden, invisible contents, academic information in it. There is a lot of government data in it. Unfortunately, Google, like search engines, hardly covering all these economic information, academic information, and government information. We need to educate now the world of digital libraries that educate the users, educate the faculty and student about the important academic information or government data available in this deep web, and that is hardly being put into the practice. This deep web is a huge size. Now, how to search over the deep web? You need to make a preparedness about different kind of meta search systems. We need to work different kind of fact search technologies where you can have live search. We need to work on various kind of discovery tools by using index. We need to work on the combination of federated and discovery search by making it a web skill discovery. An advantage is that we can provide Google-like search anytime, anywhere, access to library subscribed resources, to the selected open access resources. And if you see the scenario, this is some of the data. I collected some data. Hardly I found 100 and something, even not 100, about 90 libraries are using these kind of discovery tools. So this is something we need to understand, that when we are dealing a situation like this in lockdown, we need to really understand that we have to prepare ourselves in use of those kind of meta search engines, and we need to educate the users. If you want to search deep web, what are the tools available? Semantic tools, meta search engines, journal search engines and databases, academic search engines and databases, scientific search engines and databases, collaborative information and databases, open access search engines. All these different kind of search engines help you in locating and looking for the kind of information what we are looking for. Means how to search deep web. So these search engines help you in searching over the deep web. And if you integrate this deep web with remote access technologies, if you integrate the deep web with the remote access technologies, it becomes anywhere, anytime access. And that particular way of providing services are the users looking for. Like, you have to serve the people where they live, where they learn. You cannot compel them to come to the libraries. And I also believe that it is not necessary that everybody should come to the library. Library should reach out them. And how to reach out them? That is the way these technologies are important. And that is the way it may be remote access technology, it may be discovery technologies. And there are examples like when I was in GNU, I implemented all these combination, and with the help of these technologies, users over there able to access all the library resources anywhere, anytime. And that is something we have to think of, making different kind of digital libraries that can be accessed anywhere, anytime. Like all these digital library initiatives all over the world, which are in abundant large number. Uh, and you see, except NDLI, all these initiatives are from different countries, mostly from the US. These initiatives provide you such valuable information. They provide you so important information like if you want a book, your teacher is teaching in this lockdown and this book is not available in the library. I got a request from some French faculty in JNU. They want a book. He want a book on of French that I found in this internet archive, and that book can be learned from internet archive. Similarly, we have our own initiative, National Digital Library of India, and that particular initiative will help you in knowing how Indian contents or various other contents available in Indian libraries which are accessible. I think more about these contents will be shared with you by uh, my co-presenter, Professor Partha Pritam Das. So now I will take up my next part of presentation when after his presentation on National Digital Library of India. So let's listen Professor Das on various how Digital Library of India is taking care of these challenges and what most important things are available. So over to Professor Das.
Thank you, Dr. Gaur. It was really nice introduction to the topic, to the issue of the day, and I would actually right away start with the presentation, and let me take you to the screen. I hope the screen is visible now. I'll put it on the presentation. So, I want to specifically take you, the students and the colleagues, I want to take you through this initiative of National Digital Library of India and particularly contextualize on what's been happening and what is happening now and what we can expect to happen beyond this major disruption that we have had in our life here. So we talk about post-COVID world for digital libraries. So I'll just take a step back and possibly travel down a couple of decades to a time when libraries primarily used to be physical alone. So what we see here is, I hope the slide is visible now. In terms of what is the pre and early digital library world. So the way I wanted to kind of take a look is there have been two things happening. That on one side, naturally, there is a lot of planning that goes into introduce newer and newer technologies and techniques for the digital libraries, for these new mechanisms of technology of learning. And the other is as you go in terms of using these newer technologies, you create disruptions in terms of what is the current order, what is the way you work. So when we were in the world of physical libraries, then certainly we, in terms of technology intervention or in terms of technology use, we did not need to plan much. Neither was there any major disruption to that regard. So I am hoping that that slide of planning and disruptions are being visible. I'll proceed on to here. I'll just let me just check if it is at times is presenters have issues in terms of what is visible, particularly when you're using slides. So I'll just do a read through of my. You to be there. Okay, so I'll move on from this point. Mr. Balaji can make sure that the presentation is coming properly on YouTube screen. Now, in this context of what existed in terms of primarily the physical library world, NDLI as a project was started sometime in 2014 end with a vision to build a national knowledge asset, cultural asset, which can be used by every citizen of India, primarily the students, of course, but obviously several other lifelong learners, different professionals who use that for contributing towards education, research, innovation, and the economy. And it was launched nationally in 2018, and it is an open and inclusive library. Open in the sense it uses completely open source technology that is inclusive in the sense of it tries to provide educational service for all levels of students. So irrespective of whether you are a student of school or you are in early college or you have graduated, you are a university student, you are a researcher, you are expected to get your required educational material, research material in this library. And it also tries to cover all different languages in which India provides education. So it's a one library for all of India that NDLI has been built into, transitioning from the major space of physical libraries, transitioning in synchronization with what the rest of the world, the digital libraries in the rest of the world had been emerging as. And in that context, it will be appropriate to let you know that NDLI is available on the web. You can use it in your browser anywhere, whether on the desktop, laptop, tablet, or you can on your mobile as well. And on the mobile, you actually have applications both for Android as well as for iOS, which you can download from the respective stores. You all know how to do that. And you can just keep using. It also helps you use the library in multiple different languages. As of now, there are about 10 languages in which you can use the library. So, having said that, I mean that's the kind of digital educational support that have been built into NDLI. I would like to summarize that well till up to till the point all these disruptions of COVID started happening. NDLI has had about 4.6 crore contents, of which nearly 3.7, 3.8 crore open, which means that you can actually not only locate them, but you can use them in full text in a legal way, in a free way. And there are about 30 lakh users who use these contents. So in the slide, you can see these contents can be searched, these can be browsed through different ways. You can filter, once you have found a result, you can filter that content and actually try to get the content that you love. And all this is free. All that you need to do is just go there and start searching, browsing, and enjoying the content and making use of it. A wide range of featured contents will include, for example, for the school level, there are books from almost the entire collection of books from NCERT, from at least 20 different school boards, CBSE. There are certainly huge number of NPTEL course lectures, very interesting audio books from LibriVox, several, tens of thousands of research documents from Shodh Ganga, the research repository of India, and so on. And on top of that, what is most interesting and important in the context of education is this is just not a library. I mean, in contrast to most physical libraries, which keep books and articles and thesis maybe. But in the digital space, this library has several video lectures like NPTEL lectures. It has question papers. It has tutorials, solution manuals, different kinds of data sets that you need to work with, and so on. So it has been going as a major support. And if I look into my space, what in going to that space of what's happening in terms of the digital libraries, that physical libraries were required low amount of technology planning, and that way disruptive in that sense. Now, when we introduce things like the National Digital Library of India, or for that matter, any big digital library, then you put in a lot of planning, lot of resources, lot of efforts. And as you can see on your presentation screen, that a digital library like NDLI comes with a large collection of digital books, multimedia contents. You can search and browse, you can access it anytime, anywhere, all those green points, which are basically the core services. And then what starts happening in terms of education, which is critical for all of you students and teachers, is around this digital library services, significant amount of digital learning services starts building up. So we have had around this distance learning, online learning, our own MOOCs program, Swayam Prabha, flipped classrooms, learning management systems, and as you all know, as of last about 1.5 years, we have virtual accreditation also. You can earn credits on MOOCs, Swayam, and take it to your actual curricular program and so on. So if you look into all this, then certainly you can see that there has been a significant amount of planned intervention in terms of building up in the digital space to support the educational services. But at the same time, I must put this in context that online learning has been around, even though for a decade, but it has had a limited acceptance in terms of, have the students adapted to online education to a large scale. Well, maybe that process has been slower than what would have been better. The academic credibility of online education, the services that are built on top of this digital libraries, the sense of community and interaction, these have not been very forthright. So I would like to say that while a lot of planning and structured inputs went into that, it has been built so far. The digital libraries have been built so far in a relatively less disruptive way. So kind of the idea is you keep the physical education system right, keep the physical entities and processes right, and then build additional services to scale on top of that. So having said that, then suddenly in earlier this year, COVID happens, the coronavirus. So I'm certainly not talking about the viral aspects of the whole thing, the biological and medical aspects, but it has induced an uncontrollable amount of disruption to our life. And there are some of the, we all are living through this, but just to contextualize, just to highlight the point that I'm trying to make, I would like to point out that UNESCO itself has reported recently that there are 290 million students, 229 crore students across 22 countries who have been very adversely impacted by this crisis. And certainly these are primarily in terms of certain sections. In India, the impact certainly is very, very high. Now, if we look into this, then certainly when we get this, then there is a major change in the whole perspective of how you look at the digital library. We have been using digital library as a kind of icing on the cake, kind of. We have an education system, so things that we cannot do easily, the digital slowly grow, but grow to a scale and so on and so forth. But now suddenly your life comes to a And you have not planned for it. Nobody could plan for this disruption. We have no way to control that. We cannot say, okay, this much is disrupted, this much is what we cannot do. I mean, rest will. So, I mean, instead of the earlier situation, which was prevalent in terms of the digital libraries in the pre-COVID era, the idea no more is just to grow, just to make new things. But the idea now, you are pushed into thinking hard at how to recover from the lost ground, how to recover, how to make the best use of the lost time, the lost resources, how to survive in this showstopper in life. So NDLI have been trying to respond very strongly to these disruption in terms of providing different collections that students of different levels, I mean, whether the engineering students, a major part of the audience here are engineering students because we are talking to the channel, which is significantly engineering focused channel. So whether it's undergraduate engineering students, science students, the students of other college areas, or it's school students, students of law, and so on, we have, making use of the great collection that NDLI has. We have been building different, very focused collections for you, which as you go into the library, you will see them right popping up right at the home, the landing home screen. And you could make use of those and keep your, study engagements going. So if we look into that, and I'm very happy to share with you that this kind of a study at from home kind of a collection that we have been able to provide through this digital library means that everything else has stopped practically in terms of the educational system. Has been very well taken by the students so far. Earlier, before the pre-COVID, NDLIs had a number of visitors. We used to have about 25,000 page views every day. But that has shot to an average of 100,000 lakh daily now on some days when really interesting contents going to the new contents going to the library didn't process 2 lakh, 3 lakh. So pre-COVID, the digital libraries were focused in terms of learning more. But while on fire, while on COVID, the digital repositories have become the only way to learn, the only way to survive. And so this disruption is what has really forced all of us to take recourse to, more and more of this. I'm taking you to another slide next, which is a existing collection support that we have been working on for a while, but we have released during this time is called NDLI Tutor. This is particularly good for high school students who are aspiring for engineering entrance. So they all have to prepare for JEE mains, and those who go do well in that appear for IIT JEE and so on. So we have provided collections of solutions on JEE mains for last 5 years, on IIT JEE for over past 10 years. And these solutions are just not answers. These are just not saying that out of the MCQ ABCD, which option is correct. It of course say that, but it does also explain how you get to that solution. Very interestingly, it gives you, in different questions, it gives the student tips in terms of how to quickly eliminate different solutions. If there are 4 options given in an MCQ, all 4 are not actually equally likely. It's often very easy to eliminate the 2 options which are extremely unlikely, and you just need to do that with a little bit of tuning of how to do things, so that you can save more time for investing into the final choice between the 2 surviving options. So the tutor also collates a whole lot of similar questions and so on. So these are different interesting collections which we are regularly trying to bring to the students to make their learning during this COVID period easy, to make this on-COVID disruption create at least less disruption in your educational plan. Another very interesting aspect that from NDLI we have provided, which particularly the senior students, most of the senior students will find interesting, is we have launched a COVID research resource repository. So what this means is COVID, as you have started understanding, is not something which has come in and kind of is a virus, and it will soon have a vaccine and a process, and it will go away. It's not going to be like that. It's probably going to have a long-term effect, and certainly the effect is not the actions with COVID is not limited to medical science, not limited to computational biology and things like that. It's been creating impact in all spheres of life, whether you are an engineering professional or you deal with management issues, whether you are in terms of dealing with economic factors and so on. So the only way to react very positively and decisively to survive and live with COVID is to do research in different areas, to find out newer ways of doing things, to find out more efficient mechanisms of taking this whole pandemic by the horn, as I say. So this is a collection in which we are very carefully collecting, collating, and curating references to different research material in different buckets. There is a bucket on scholarly publications, which give you currently about 40,000 publications on COVID. So, I mean, it may be COVID-19, it may be SARS-CoV-2, this virus is not a surprise. It's been around for about, you'd be amazed that it's been, the first paper on COVID actually was published in 1949. So it's more than 50 years old. It's just that the variants keep on changing. So scholarly publications are about 40,000 papers, and most of them are freely available, courtesy different publishers who have made access to COVID research contents free. Then we have data sets therein, because it's very important in today's time of data science to do research, and only when you have good access to the data. Then you have authenticated documents. Then as a researcher, if you're making use of data and research by others and you produce results, your next concern is, where do I publish that result? I mean, if you're a research student, that will be your basic concern. So several journals are actually coming out announcing about special issues on different research related to, again, not solely the medical or biological. I mean, the journals have even announced special terms of, say, video conferencing technologies, because it's been now realized that video conferencing technologies make a lot of improvements. So those kind of journals, then there are different funding agencies coming out with funding announcement, funding options, challenges, hackathons, and so on. So all kinds of different innovation and research opportunities around COVID. You can find information about that in terms of the on COVID repository support from NDLI. So these are the next slide. You'll see some of those information on the graph. So particularly, I think it takes a while for the slides to really come live on the YouTube. But as you get to see it now, you'll see that on the right there are different points that I have tried to show, that different points, particularly on the two arrows on the right. It was released around that time in early middle of March, and that led to a lot of interest in. So those pics are shown as to how students are reacting and actually taking good benefit out of this repository support. And the rightmost one is for the COVID. So moving on, there are different natural goals for the want of time. Let me next settle down back to my original model in terms of what's been happening in terms of the digital libraries. So we had a look in terms of the pre-digital library period of physical libraries when we had low requirement of low technology planning and low disruption to the whole thing. And then we had the pre-COVID NDLI kind of digital library scenarios where a lot of planning went in, a lot of systemic development happened. But the whole idea was not to create disruption because the whole idea was to be incremental. And then now I show you the third of the quadrant filled up on the left top, as you see, is where you did not have an opportunity to plan, but you have a disruption which is of the highest order. So you can see the red points. The institutions have been closed, the students have been sent back to home, examinations are cancelled, conferences are called off, and so on and so forth. I mean, you all will equally know the kind of disruptions that have happened. And there was no time to plan, but even with whatever had been built up in terms of these digital libraries, people have moved on to online classes, online evaluations, conferences, and in a way, there is a realization which is started to dawn in everybody's mind, particularly the circle that digital libraries are not really serving the purpose of libraries, that is, which was limited to kind of search, browse, or access, but they are kind of turning out to be the core center of learning, the center around which the next generation of educational technologies, next generation of educational processes have to dwell. So, as Major Harsh Kumar, the Secretary of NCERT, recently said this a couple of weeks back, that at the outset, the online education portals cannot replace schools, which everybody needs. However, at this time of crisis, we need to evolve innovative methods of learning, and online education portals are the answer. So that has been the on-COVID response of digital libraries and associated services, the whole crisis. So if I move on to to conclude my talk, what certainly we all are looking forward to, expecting to get ready for, is the post-COVID world. So how will be the post-COVID world? What we mean by post-COVID is where the immediate threat of the virus is expectedly not there, at least not at a large scale. The very severe limitations put on by lockdown and stay at home has been somewhat relaxed. But even if that's significantly relaxed, even if the threat of the virus is significantly reduced, the question is, would the post-COVID time? Certainly not. Unlike the pre-COVID world, we do not need to preserve what just about was. That was the outlook of pre-COVID. We don't just need to do different things. We need to do things differently. COVID, at least the strike of COVID, at least teaches us that. And particularly, unlike the on-COVID, the time that we are going through right now, we just don't need to focus on staying afloat. At present, that's the whole thing. It's not. Certainly, I'm from academia. I'm from education. We are talking on staying afloat, but post-COVID is actually about going beyond that. So, what kind of things that we can think of in terms of going beyond this era, where it's not only that a low level of planning as we have in managing with during the on-COVID period now is going to be enough. We need to plan a lot, we need to invest, innovate a lot. But at the same time, The COVID has taught us that, be ignored. Disruption is the way to go. So we have to think instead of being really out of the box, think which can disrupt, put digital libraries for knowledge in action. It's not library originally was a storehouse of books and a space where people could go and study. We migrated to digital libraries and reduced the need for people to go to the library. Started going down, uh, but back in action, digital libraries will certainly, as it is posing, will return as a center place for knowledge. Around them will be places for innovation in engineering, science, technology, and arts and culture. Access for all is has to become a much bigger issue. This is it's shown that it's particularly the on COVID has shown us that it's not enough just to have this digital library and knowledge access limited to cities or type A towns and so on. It is not enough to just have this digital library footprints in big institutions. We need naturally much wider penetration of rural libraries. Our rural broadband has to work. I mean, partly India has been able to manage certain impacts of the COVID crisis because to a certain extent in broadband work, but still far away from where it should be. Our rural broadband is still in a lot of jitters, instability, lack of bandwidth, and so on. Access for all has to work across K-12 and higher education institutions. If you look into the COVID and you all are on NPTEL, so you are basically higher education students. You'll see that the digital library and associated learning technologies, the interventions thereof have significantly been leveraged only by the higher education, not significantly by the higher education. It has to happen across K-12. A very disruptive change which has been talked of for a long time has to really happen now is in terms of open knowledge and accreditation. We talk about open access. There are a lot of debates and rights, and open access is an issue because to have more and more content in open access, you need to have more and more content generated out of the copyright boundaries. So that brings in the questions of what do we need to do with our publishing industry. Dr. Gaur mentioned that we have a huge publishing industry, and that has to migrate more towards open publishing. It should be easy for anyone who is willing to contribute content for education to go directly into publishing without going through publishers and getting into the copyright loopholes. Open access application, open source applications are becoming a major order of the day. We have been somehow managing with Zoom and Google Meet and WebEx and all that. Many of them have extended a lot of free accesses during this time, but if it has to be the core and the surviving thing, then the whole of this virtual operational platforms have to be thought of not incremental in terms of what we have, but in terms of really being the change that it needs to bring in. The other areas that I strongly feel would have severe interventions is the use of artificial intelligence and machine learning in terms of learning tutors, educational technology, bots, and so on. Open spaces available from the libraries will be used by the digital libraries for interactions and innovation. So these are, there's a whole lot of, obviously, as of now, none of us know exactly what is this charter going to be, but all that you can say is this crisis gives us also a lot of opportunity in terms of the innovations that we can do, in terms of the planning we can do, and in terms of the change mindset. We could really be thinking out of the box, disrupt. have really not done before, which will really create a new world order for the digital libraries. So that was kind of what I wanted. Thank you very much for your attention. I will now request Dr. Gaur to take up the thread.
Thank you, Professor Das, for wonderfully explaining the challenges NDLI has took up post-COVID or during this lockdown situation. What we believe, I think this crisis also has certain opportunity. Our Prime Minister has rightly mentioned that there are a lot of opportunities behind this situation. All these opportunities before us, we need to really look at these opportunities and want to really uh, work out in a manner. And just having access to digital content is not a real digital library nowadays. Uh, I'm sorry, initially there was some echo, so you're not able to hear my initial background talk. Uh, so far, like me and Professor Das has talked about the current situation, the challenges, and how NDLI is taking over. But I'm going to present few more things to you, like what after this, what to do, what is next is waiting for you. We are in a technology innovation world. Every time we have new things coming up. And now we are talking about education 4.0. We are talking about Internet of Things. So how libraries should prepare themselves to meet these challenges? Like when anywhere, anytime access is the need of education 4.0. When we talk about lifelong learning, when we are talking about personalized delivery of information, when we talk about the flexible delivery of information. And here in education, new education, we are talking more about peers and mentors. Currently, we are worried about the examination system, but when we talk about education 4.0, we have been talking about evaluation, not just examination. So all these challenges what libraries are facing today, how we should think of having academic libraries 4.0, how we choose flexible learning paths, how we focus on imparting life skills, the lifelong learning, and our activity should be focused on student-centered learning methods, and use of technology has become a prerequisite, a very, very important thing. So what world of libraries will offer all these challenges, where we can talk about how to engage our users in their domains where they live, what the activities they do, the research they do, how we can, as a library, how we can engage them, how we can integrate. So it's more about engagement and integration by helping in their different, our various tools and technologies, whatever we are offering, should focus on personalized learning, personalized delivery of information, on various kind of research support services, helping them in writing, in student help in writing, their plagiarism detection, and also like whenever they want, they should get the all kind of information. They don't need help in downloading a book or an article. They know, they are technology savvy people. They understand how to, from where to download a book, various kind of, once you provide it anytime by using Discovery or anytime, anywhere technology, your job is done. Your major job is done. Now, the real issue is that what they expect from you. They want that you should develop various kind of research guides and subject gateways for them. They want help which is not just reading material, it is beyond that. So library has to look beyond providing just digitized content or subscribed contents, or in this information overload, what they need, help them in assisting what are the most authenticated information for them in their area of interest. What are the most relevant, most valuable information in their area of interest. So these research guides in various kind of subject gateways are going to be integrated with new world of digital libraries. And now face-to-face reference services is no more required. They want digital reference services, either virtual reference services, where they will be interacting with you over mobile, over web, or social media, all is instant chatting, all those these kind of services has to be introduced and to be integrated. Like when somebody is, like when you are going to have a policy, insurance policy, you see when you are trying to download, go for a policy, suddenly there is a chat window activated from the service provider, and your message is, you are receiving a message that, do you need any help? And immediately, so that kind of connectivity with the users, when user is unable to find out a particular material. So in the modern world, like Professor Das has rightly mentioned, use of artificial intelligence and or semantic search, all these have to be embedded in these new digital reference services and digital library systems. And one most important thing, which is so far we are not talking about, we are not doing much on that. And library has to need, libraries of the future has to look into that. Moreover, libraries are doing it, but in Indian libraries still we are lacking. That is research and data management. We don't do much on this area, like how various students doing a PhD student, or it may be a faculty who is having different kind of research project, how to help in this entire research cycle, research life cycle, from this planning to creation or process or analyze, how to collect the data, how to archive the data, how to analyze the data, how to preserve the data. Data curation has become a very important. So somewhere down the line, it is not just subscribed contents or digitized content in a digital library system. This data will become very, very crucial. And I think now, in the next world of digital libraries, we need to talk about this data can be in any discipline. It can be data related to cultural heritage, data related to any other discipline. So this is another area where libraries have to work, and they have to find out ways and means to look into that. When we talk about subject experts, this concept is not very new. In US university, there is a position of subject librarians, a person who is a PhD in sociology or a master's in sociology, and also a library science background. They are acting as a subject librarian. So we have to think of providing expertise in different disciplines. We have to talk about like how to help them in their subject discipline beyond providing reading material. So this is a concept of subject librarians need to be introduced and need to be integrated with our online system or digital library system, where subject expert is available to talk to the student, to guide them. Like suppose a student is making a synopsis, what kind of books and other material he or she should refer in that particular topic. So that subject expert, beside understanding the library requirement, should also have understanding of subject in that they are working. And now this is key, electronic document delivery of contents, something on demand, something just from your side. Have a proactive approach, like this email alert service. Whatever new information coming in the area of interest, make the subject profile of your faculty members or your students and set up the e-alert and whenever some good article or good service is coming, it should be given to them. Many times it is not, many articles are not available in PDF form, particularly when we talk about uh, multiple campuses and resource utilization and resource uh, enhancement. These kind of services become very important, that how to save the time of the user by providing, like giving a small example, in GNU library we put up a faculty room, and in that we have installed a scanner and a computer. So if particular faculty want to have an article, instead of photocopying, he or she can get it scanned and email it to herself. That article is not available in electronic form, it is a back issue of article. Similarly, some library staff can help, some request is received. So this electronic delivery is also need to be linked with the offline material, and that should be supplemented or may complement the digital resources. We have to look into the needs of the persons with visual impairment, maybe pain disability, maybe any other kind of disability. So libraries have to prepare, and the content should be like, you digitize your material, it should be accessible. If you don't make it accessible, the blind visual impairment student, they cannot read it, they cannot go through the material because it is not accessible, the file is not searchable. So all these care should be taken, various kind of barrier-free services in the library. So all these things, and we are in the world where online learning has become a reality, and tools like all these MOOC or Moodle or OER, Open Educational Resources, are going to play a very important role, a very key role in the future. And this particular situation of COVID-19 has proved it, that India has to prepare in terms of open access, in terms of open educational resources. We have to do a lot. And libraries has to play in promotion, in integration of these resources with the library contents, and have to guide the people who are not aware of all those things. So this is something we are looking, virtual library tools are important, particularly in current situation. How to know about various library services, so virtual library tools are very important. To conclude here, what I will try to say in my last slide, that now we need smart libraries, and for smart libraries we need smart librarians, round the clock working librarian, proactive and creative, innovative, very well trained in new and emerging technologies. And I think we have a traditional approach of users coming to the library. Actually, we have to have an approach that we should reach out them, become a teaching research librarian. You teach them, you help them in research, and you become a trained setter. I always say that out-of-box thinking is very important. You, as a librarian, when we talk about new world of digital library, your creativity, your help in designing the system is utmost important. And I always say that a librarian has to act as a friend, philosopher, and guide, which is the philosophy, and it was the saying of our great Dr. S.R. Ranganathan. So I think with these few words, I would like to close my presentation, and would like to thank NPTEL. And now with Professor Das, we will be happy to take up questions, whatever have been received to us over this during this presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Gaur. Thanks for summarizing. In the meanwhile, I did take a look at the set of questions that we have received. Now, some of those we can respond to. Certainly, some of the questions are related to general COVID situation, which neither falls in the purview of this discussion, nor we are experts about talking on them. So certainly I will skip those. There have been questions on what is the best software for digital library. I would say that there's no one unique answer for that, and certainly when you talk about digital library, there are multiple aspects that can be talking about. So what we have significantly tried to address were relating to the content management services, the CMS. There is another part of major user services, like issue, return, all those RFID and all that. So there are a number of open source systems, including for Koha is a good one that I would naturally recommend for user service management. And DSpace is what we use in MDA Live for content service management, and also use Solar in the backend. So that's uh, and there were some questions which relate to naturally aspects that we have touched upon is how the student access digital library. Students do not have, of course, these are two things, and I specifically try to talk about them in terms of the rural broadband. Certainly, all of these will apply only if you have the connectivity. Certainly, this is not a discussion about how to have that connectivity. That India as a nation has given a wide connectivity to the citizens, has to get wider and has to reach every corner of the rural India. So we are not in a position to give you any specific solution to that, but it has to be there. It has to. And it is required not only for education, it's required for the basic survival in the country. There was a question in terms of, can you please share complete structure of central library requirements in engineering college department wise? I would request the person whoever has asked this question, you may write to me. I can guide you to direct you to the person who can answer this, because this is not relevant to what we are discussing. Special children section in digital library would be nice to have, certainly. If you look into National Digital Library of India, I talked about briefly about LibriVox, which are audio books. These are really nice story books read out. So much of them could be used by the children. But in spite of our deep intention, we have not been able to create a kind of children's section yet in National Digital Library of India. Someday we should be able to do that. There have been some questions relating to which NPTEL should respond to regarding attendance and certificate. Again, Dr. Gaur and myself, we are resource persons, faculty, talking on technicals. We answer questions on those. Obviously, NPTEL personnel will see this sheet, so they will respond to those. Sharing of the PPT will be okay to do that. So this will be available with NPTEL. NPTEL can share that with you, or you can write to me by mail. I can share it across. My email address is easy to get. I'm at IIT Kharagpur. So go to IIT Kharagpur, look for my name, you'll find my email address. How to access the digital library? I think we have talked about how to access National Digital Library of India. If you go to Google, just type National Digital Library of India. The first link that comes up is of NDL Live. Go there and start using. Or if you want to do it from your phone or an Android phone, go to Google's Play Store and type National Digital Library of India. Similarly for iOS, you can start using that. There is a question specifically for Dr. Gaur. Dr. Gaur, would you like to take that? What could be a process for getting heritage items collected by a single person to a digital repository? How could he or she contribute his contents with metadata? Dr. Gaur, would you like to take that? This question specifically for you. Or let's do such finish with the remaining questions, and then you can take up the specific one. I think this is an involved one. Then I think in the remaining good information, I'm aspiring researchers. I'm an aspiring researcher in bioinformatics. How can I make use of the data set and equip myself to make research more thankful? So Weaver has asked the question, Deepa. Please go to the data sets section in the COVID research. You'll find a lot of data sets references, and we are making a next release of the COVID research repository next week, sometime next week. So please do revisit after about a week. I'm sure on the data sets section you'll find a lot of new data set references coming in, including data sets that are shared through GitHub and such code repositories. A list of libraries whose contents are available online along with general areas of specialization. Again, I'll have to leave that question to Dr. Gore. My knowledge in this area is low. My question is, the National Digital Library have study material for NEET students to help them? Yes, we do, Priyanka, but yet the NEET solution set, like I talked about the JEE mains, and I talked about IIT JEE, the NEET solution set is still not fully developed. COVID has naturally made the speed at which we can work has become reduced, so kind of it is taking more time. We hope we'll be able to give you something. You can just separately write a mail to me. I'll get you connected with the specific people who are providing the support and we'll get that right now. I think that's all in terms of the questions that I had to answer. Dr. Gore, if you could answer the ones which are very specific for your experience and for the cultural heritage. Over to Dr. Gore.
Hello. Thank you, Professor Das. I come across 2-3 main questions which I need to address. One is that somebody is asking about the best digital library software. It depends upon the size of the collection and the library and services. Even Koha Library Automation software can help you. DSpace is there, Fedora is there, uPrint is there, and there are a number of commercial softwares available for that. When we talk about various kinds of collections of libraries available over the I think Balaji, I'm not coming on the screen. Or my voice. Huh? Hello. So, if you talk about various questions which have been raised, the one question which I come across is that various digital library software, then number of various libraries having digital library collection. There are a number of libraries which are having their repository, institutional repository, like for example, National Archive of India, National Archive of Delhi, State Archive of Delhi, sorry, have recently digitized entire material. Asiatic Society in Mumbai has rare book collection. Similarly, there are a number of ETD repositories available. There are a number of institutional repositories available. If you want to know more details about that, specifically in particular area, I can help. You can email it to me. Regarding this cultural heritage question related to cultural heritage, like it is not about the single person or multiple person. If you want to create a digital library, you have to see what are the collections available in digital format, what kind of software you want to use for the purpose of curating a digital repository. Nowadays, it is so easy. We have so much information available on the internet. There are a lot of training programs organized by various associations. Only thing is that we need to have a willingness to create a digital repository or digital library, and also keeping in mind the copyright issues concerning the collection, because everything cannot be digitized, everything need not to be digitized. So depending upon the collection which you can digitize, you can choose your software, and even there are a number of agencies operating in India, they can help. There are a number of collaborative projects, like if you have digitized or created a digital repository, NDLI help a lot if you want to be part of NDLI repository, and there are various ways of training and support available from NDLI also. So similarly, there is a various ways and means of creating digital libraries and digital repositories. We need to understand that now we have to move from that world of just online catalogs. We have to really think of creating digital repository, and all these questions I want to sum up last in the one thing. Beside digitizing your contents, you need to integrate. And you need to provide remote access to all these contents wherever it is possible to your users, or to outside people. If something is away from copyright, if you can extend under open access. So all these issues concerning creation of contents and integration of these contents with various library services, various kind of engagement with the researcher and other users, I think all these have to be taken care by the libraries in the coming days, and we have to really work hard for libraries like school libraries, college libraries, who are the most sufferer in these kind of situations. They don't have that kind of availability of the content. At the same time, our various industry, government agencies has to come out with the policies and right kind of laws to really make accessible all these open access and facilities available to. I think these were the some of the things I understood from the questions. There was no direct question which I may like to answer directly. So I think with these words from my side, I would like to thank NPTEL and Professor Das. Anything, if you come across any other question, because the seat is not with me. So.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Gaur. I think we'll close it here. Thanks to NPTEL and students and colleagues for attending. And please feel free to write to us whenever you have any suggestions regarding digital library services from NDLI and other digital libraries. So with this, we will close the session today. Right?
Thank you, Usadas. Thank you, Balaji.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.